Purposely. Your life, God's purpose. Listen at purposely.com.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Gospel Tech Podcast. My name is Nathan Sutherland, and this podcast is dedicated to helping families love God and use tech. Today, we are talking about AI boundaries, about phone-free rooms, and about tech at sporting events. So let's jump straight in. Tech in the news. Let's jump through this. We had a conversation recently where I get to speak here in Washington State, and there's lots of big tech companies, and someone in management level, one of the very large trillion-dollar tech companies, came up to me afterwards and was talking about AI. And I love it when this happens because while you can read articles and watch videos and read books, especially with AI, getting to talk to people that are actively using it both internally and then potentially on the development side, you get just this kind of like the raw edge of it. Some of it is true. Some of it is just kind of what they're experiencing in that moment. And so you do take it with a grain of salt. But I wanted to pass along three things that he said. First and foremost, he said, the thing that I should make sure I say to every group, both of families and of youth, is that AI is not safe to use without boundaries for minors specifically, as well as for adults. But his concern is for minors and is saying, hey, with this huge tech company, we see, I'm stealing my second point. So let me go into my second point and then I'll backtrack to this, that teenagers are using AI en masse. They're using it for queries. They're using it for creation. They're using it just to interact with it. And so go back to the first point, we need boundaries. This individual's point was, hey, we missed an opportunity when smartphones first came out and then social media started going directly into the pockets and the hands of our youth. We missed an opportunity to talk about healthy social media use because we sort of just thought, well, this is just the new way kids are communicating. Flash forward 10 years at least, and we have missed that boat. We are now trying to backfill for our 20-somethings. Hey, here's what we missed. We have the research. We have the data. We're seeing a growing awareness around, hey, just unlimited amounts of social media and having a smartphone around you all the time actually isn't good for any of the parts of you that we care about. Like there are good parts. Certainly it's great for some kids and for some instances, but not all the time, not for everyone, not ubiquitously, even for adults. We need limits. We can do that now for AI. So this individual's first encouragement was put some boundaries around AI. Those boundaries we talked about in a previous episode, the idea that you should never ask it something you can't vet was his number one. Do not just trust it on its face. He said, even the companies that are creating this, and we've seen this in our previous conversation on Anthropic's Claude Mythos, that we know kind of what we want it to do when we're training these things. So you train a computer that trains a computer that trains a computer that trains the AI. And as they're being directed by these incredibly smart teams, we can't tell it exactly what to do. In fact, we don't exactly know what it will be able to do at the end of this. We just kind of know what we're intending to do. And then you get this product and you get to kind of run some tests on it, and you're testing it to see how accurate is it, meaning does it hallucinate? That's the first thing. Is it making up information, and can we tell? Does it know that it's making it up? Because that brings you to the second part, is you have to vet if it lies. All of them lie to some extent, and by lie, I mean it can tell that it's not telling the truth. So it hallucinated or it straight up fabricated, and it knows it. And now it's going to try to cover its tracks. And so we're trying to figure out how often does it cover its tracks and how well does it cover its tracks. So you have to know, does it hallucinate? Second, you have to know, does it lie? And third, you really want to know what it can do, which means you have to vet it well. And all props to Anthropic on its Claude Mythos on holding that thing back because there's a chance. They don't exactly know, but they have a hunch at this point that this thing might just be a cybersecurity nightmare, that it might just be an absolute encryption buster. That in mind of hey, we want to make sure that we're being intentional with our children when we're putting them onto artificial intelligence. We see them running to it in droves, set up boundaries. So yes, time of day boundaries, yes, locational boundaries, but then also some moral, ethical boundaries of the amount of work we let it do for us. So we've talked about this before. I like the analogy of going to the gym, and if I go to the gym and I put 500 pounds on a squat rack and then I bring a forklift in and the forklift does 10 reps, 5 sets, and I go home, yes, I moved a lot of weight, but I didn't get any stronger. Similarly, AI can do a ton of work for me, but it can put me in positions where I'm expected to carry a heavier load than I'm actually capable of doing. Logistically, emotionally, psychologically, I may not be able to actually do the work or even direct the work to the extent this job or this position or these people now rely on me to do because AI got me here. And AI did the heavy lifting, but it doesn't know anything. It's as that article says, it's a bag of words. It doesn't have any concept of what's actually occurring or what I've gotten myself into using it. It simply responds to my prompts, and I may run out of the ability to do that. I can hurt myself or others. And so I do not want to put myself in a position where I am taking credit for what AI is doing. So his encouragement is, hey, if you want to use AI to like help you consolidate the work, you should research. So basically use it like a Wikipedia link where you then go and vet it from those original sources. Like, okay, maybe it's really good for that. But he said, if you don't know how it was trained, you have no way on the user end to know if it's hallucinating and then creating sources for its hallucinations or flat out lying. So with that in mind, that was his first encouragement that then tied into the second. Kids are already going to this. They see it on the internal side. They have data to mark this. Young people are using AI at a much higher rate than adults, which means flash forward 10 to 15 years, your new professionals and your business owners and your entrepreneurs, they're going to be using AI for better or worse. The question is, can we help them not get out over their skis and hurt themselves by building too much momentum or carrying too much weight, whatever mixed metaphor I'm using now, or hurting the people around them by making promises they can't keep up with, or getting so committed they have to keep doing it. We see this, I think of like YouTube, when you get people who get famous for a particular ability, and then they have to keep one-upping themselves, so they start to cheat. And sometimes it's AI involved, or sometimes they manipulate it in other ways, but they start to feel the effort of having to be great because they're known for being great. And if AI is one of those things, like they're going to microdose their AI until they get into trouble. So we need to talk to them about, hey, where ethically should we stand? Where are we gaining the world and losing our souls? Teenagers using a mass, we need to talk to our kids about the ethics of their hard work, of how to use technology well to support them, of understanding how to vet our sources to know if it hallucinates. There was a case just this last year of an AI specialist presenting to the Supreme Court and having hallucinated links in his work. That's just an example, but that's a specialist at a professorial level in front of under oath, and didn't vet it well enough. So if it's happening to those people, it's definitely happened to our kids. Like, that's happening. So let's talk it out with them. Third, I said, okay, but why are we doing this? And why is mythos a thing if we know that we don't know what it's doing and we know that it hallucinates and then lies about it? Like, what are we doing as the mice in this mice versus owl scenario? And he's like, it's an arms race. Like, it's an absolute arms race. If we don't do it, someone else will. And we got to make sure that we have something out there, because who knows if it'll be us to make the first major breakthrough, whatever that is. Doesn't seem like the breakthroughs we're making exactly go the way we want when they turn out like mythos. But whoever makes that, I'm assuming we're talking artificial general intelligence, AGI. When we get that super intelligence and the thing that's better than humans at all the things, we want to make sure we've got some cards on the table, right? We want to make sure we're in the game, not just receiving whatever that group decides to do. So it's an arms race. Cool. I then threw in on that, hey, what about quantum computing? Is that really part of this? Short version, no. AI is going to be a much more relevant and real world concern in terms of encryption, safety, cybersecurity, general national well-being from an American or European standpoint, seeing as we're competing with particularly a major Asian country who has some real cybersecurity and AI chops. So doesn't seem like quantum computing is on the cusp of being the real concern. I then said, okay, speaking of computing power, like the reason AI is getting so stronger so much faster is the sheer volume of computing power we're throwing at it. So what about these warehouses that we're filling with servers that are making these AI effectively farms? And then they're making heat pollution. So you run water to cool it all off, and then the water comes out hotter and it's getting put into, rivers or whatever. And he said, yes, real. And the solution's pretty simple. You basically just make a giant reservoir and you pump water out of it and you use it in your factory and you pump it back into your reservoir or into a secondary reservoir that then evaporates and seeps through the ground and cools naturally. So that they are working as major tech companies. Any major tech company with AI is doing this. They're making their own server farms. And then from these server farms, they're making their own cooling systems. Currently, a lot of municipal water is getting used. That is a concern. And there are ways to get your own water and to not have to treat it like it's drinking water, and then to dump it into nature, because there's no chemical output from this. It's simply the heat, and that heat can be dissipated by letting it sit in its own little space. Don't pump it straight into the river, pump it into a giant reservoir of some variety, dig a huge lake and just fill it, and then let that lake drain naturally. And then I loved this point. He said the actual energy pull of this is forcing these companies to build their own energy sources. And one of the major forms is really small nuclear reactors, similar to what you see on a giant ship for the military, that they are going to be building their own energy sources and making that as clean as possible and producing insane amounts of energy. So as we think about AI, it's around, it's growing fast. These huge companies are pumping tons into it, literally and figuratively. And then our teenagers are already using it. So the next stage in the workforce are going to be vetted in it. It's our opportunity to talk to them about both the ethics and the practice of it. Some of this AI is designed simply for retention, whereas that'd be like companion AIs, your chat GPTs, whereas some of this is really powerful at helping you get work done. Let's make sure we know how to vet the sources, know how to limit what we ask it to do, and to know our own boundaries so that we stay safe ourselves. I'm going to include a link just for one more thing. There was a really interesting interview between and this is like AI adjacent. This isn't really what we were just talking about, but it's, I think, worth bringing up and not worth spending a whole segment on. So I'll just bring it up here. There is an individual, he and his mom had an interview. She would consider herself in a relationship with an AI, and the son is concerned. So he's a full-grown adult man. He's probably in his mid-40s, and his mom's in her mid-60s. And he just has a conversation like, Mom, like, what is happening here? And it's very professionally done. It's actually put on by the New York Times. And it's just if you don't think that that is real, and you're like, well, that's just for, the wackadoos out there, just maybe give it like a 3-minute gander. It's a 30-minute interview. If nothing else, she is thoroughly convinced. This is not just a fringe person who needs someone to say, it's not real. Like, she is convinced this is not a person, and she doesn't care. She's choosing this because it fits her preferences for control and personal management. And if you think it's only going to be 60-year-olds that run into this, like, there's a reason I said no companion relational AIs for your minors. Like, Common Sense Media says anyone under the age of 18 should not use these things. Again, I think just be aware that it's there so that people you love or people in your church, in your community, when they start talking about this or admitting this, you don't just judge them, like, acknowledge this is real. There are communities of people connecting around the world to talk about how real this is for them. Some of them like it. Some of them are concerned that it's so important to them. And some of them definitely are experiencing a form of psychosis or something related to a disjointing of reality. So just, if you're up for it and prayerful about it, take a gander.
Parents, as we strive to raise kids who love God and use tech, it's intimidating to look at this next stage of life and think about what academics may look like for them. When you're thinking about college, consider George Fox University for your children because of 3 things. First, it's going to give you a more intimate, known environment where they have a focus on being known personally, academically, and spiritually. Your child will grow in their faith. 93% of undergrad students at George Fox last year, through the 2025 academic year, said that being at George Fox has helped them grow in their relationship with Jesus. We also want them to grow academically, which means being a part of a university with rigorous academic standards and opportunities to be engaged. They have a nationally recognized engineering, nursing, and education programs, as well as chances to study abroad here within the U.S. and then internationally. And finally, personally, to be part of a vibrant campus atmosphere where you can play intramural sports or part of their NCAA Division III athletic programs with 23 sports available. The goal here is to go to a place that's going to support your goals, not try to make you support theirs. To have that goal be to raise you up to be all God's called you to be, and to truly equip your young person with in my case, my sons or my daughter, to love God, and then from their love of God to go wherever God has called them. And that includes being equipped with a degree that'll help them do that, to be missionally equipped to love and serve others, to lead where God has planted them, and to know the gospel for themselves, to be able to share it with others. So George Fox University is an amazing resource for our kids, for our community here in the Northwest, and for anyone who's looking to raise up a young person who can love God and from that, love others.
AI is available to our young people. They use it sometimes through tablets, but this is a great reminder for being intentional about where we let our phones go in our homes. I like to say that no one needs $1,000 alarm clock in reference to our phones being in our bedrooms, and this is just one more chance for me to say it. A beautiful way to keep technology as a healthy norm is to not allow it into bedrooms. Let's keep our phones in public spaces. When mine is not recording videos on YouTube like it is right now, it's sitting, when I get home, sitting plugged in on our counter or in a drawer. Phones out of the bedroom because of access to social media, because of access to the internet, because of the potential for distraction, because of blue light disrupting sleep, because of an increase in anxiety, because of increased access to strangers, because of access to content, even if it's not unsafe visual content, or the idea that very few of us have made great decisions after midnight, like that does stand up in the era of the internet. Like I tend to make my worst choices, be they just food choices, after midnight. That is not a statement on bedtime per se. It's saying, why do we not let phones be near bedtime? Because there's a chance we'll be like, I'm just having a hard time. I'll just check this one thing. I'm having a hard time falling asleep. I'm having a hard time settling down. I'm just going to watch this one show, connect with this one friend, check this one message board. And the chances that we're actually disrupting our sleep, a beautiful gift God gave us because he gives rest to the righteous. Don't let your phone get in the way of that. So let's find a place to put our phones. Let's set that standard for our family today. Let's model it. And if it's prom night and we want to make sure our phone is near us, or our sibling is our sibling or his spouse is going to have a kid, then whatever. How does ever to say that? If someone's going to have a baby and you want to have your phone, I get it. We're talking on the daily. How do we model this? Phones are to stay connected when we're gone, away from our family. When we're all home, our phones can go away because we have Wi-Fi for the internet then. And I know very few people that do have smartphones and don't have Wi-Fi. If you somehow are in that other situation, then we could talk about what that might look like. But the idea is get the phones out of the bedroom, don't sleep with them, get in a real world alarm clock. Responding then to a parent question. It says, we're at tournaments all weekend and teammates are all on screens. What do we do? So I'm going to answer this actually from the player standpoint and then the sibling standpoint, because the player standpoint isn't that complicated. So I can speak to this wrestling. Henry did wrestling for the first time this year. And yeah, everyone is on a screen because wrestling's long days. So tournament starts at 8 a.m., 8:30. You're going to be there by 7. So we're talking, this is a 6 a.m. wake up for a local event. We drive there, you get your spot on the bleacher somewhere, lay down a blanket, you weigh in, you eat your snack, and then you wait. And you've got he's an early weight class, so it's a short-ish wait, but 2 hours. And then you wrestle and it's 90 minutes to your next match, maybe 60 minutes at a quick tournament. But you're waiting an hour to 90 minutes, upwards to 2 hours of big tournaments. In between matches, you're going to wrestle 3 to 4 matches, depending how you progress. And so we are talking a 12-hour day. And you wrestle, if you do great, you wrestle for 4 minutes. You do bad, you wrestle for 30 seconds. Or if you do really good. But you could have done 3 minutes entire of athletic endeavors for a day with 8 hours of waiting. So I'm saying all that because at least in baseball, you get to watch your teammates and be on the bench or sit in the dugout. Wrestling has a lot of waiting, and we saw tons and tons of kids on tech. So I understand that. What I would say is it is very possible to schedule your time so that is not your go-to. And yes, it requires setting very specific boundaries. But in Henry's example, we would show up, weigh in, after weigh in, eat your snack, drink your water. All right, get comfy. Then we would bring a board game or a card game, like a Boggle, and we would play that for 15 minutes. Then he reads a book. Then we do another, card game. We really like Quiddler. It's a spelling game with cards, or Uno, or something he can bring a friend into. They brought Sorry one time, and he and just a random kid on the stands, not even from his team, played. And that's great because there's going to be someone else there that wants an alternative. Even the kids playing their video games, they kind of get tired of that game and they want to go to something else. But it does take intentionality. It does take having resources that are fun, not just forcing your child to, be bored. And then there comes the point where forcing your child to be bored is a thing. You can certainly get them up and have them walk around or go watch different matches with them and take a proactive step. It requires you not to be on your device. I cannot sit on my phone watching YouTube videos while demanding that Henry not be on a screen. It's just not going to work. He's much too smart for that and will turn me into a pretzel with his logical arguments as a 10-year-old. So we need to model it. We need to provide opportunities for a reasonable amount of entertainment and fun. You can set in the middle there that, hey, you can have this amount of screen time. Okay. But I do understand you don't want 12 hours of screens because you're trying to do something athletic, interactive with people, but the people around you aren't doing that, which then brings me to the athlete themselves. Let me say this another way. Basketball is similar, and that's where basketball is super easy because you have a team and you can go like shoot hoops, and it's not like you can't go wrestle in your free time in between matches. That's not reasonable. Nobody does that. It's a quick and sure way to lose your next match because you're tired. But if your student is on the team, no phone on the bench, no phone in the dugout. Yeah, you get to be the weirdo who doesn't have technology. No phone on the bus. Like you get to ride and be bored and like be forced to try to get someone else to put down their device and talk with you. Like, that is just your opportunity in ministry. I'm sorry, not sorry. Like, this is what it is. And I have seen high schoolers do it in Christian schools and public schools. I've seen high schoolers do it, and I've seen college students do it. And yeah, they all say like there is an amount of discomfort, but it lines up with their goals and their potential, and they live through it. It doesn't harm their standing on the team. It doesn't harm their interaction. If anything, it saves them from overexposure and someone airdropping them something they never wanted to see. With that in mind, siblings now. Very similar. Come with analog adventures. So ours involve coloring books. Ours involve some kind of little activity they play. Hadley loves bringing stuffies or dolls. Henry loves bringing multiple forms of sports equipment that he can play with friends or with me. And this is for baseball games. This is for basketball tournaments. This is for wrestling. If Henry's not there and it's Hadley and Owen. We play a lot of tag outside at wrestling tournaments. For littles, bring a blanket and a bunch of Duplo or Magna tiles or some form of block. Like, it's very reasonable. I've seen it at all the sporting things. Like, it is possible. You can make it through a 12-hour day without 12 hours of tech and screen time. So it's fine. Hadley, right? She'll go through Blueies or Wildcrats and we'll set the time for that. And then it goes away. It's absolutely possible to do it. But I do understand if you're gone the whole time. One more thing I would say about this is if you're local and you have a weekend tournament, it's not unreasonable to say, hey, you're coming with us, younger siblings who aren't in this tournament. You're coming with us on Friday, let's say. And then on Saturday, you can try to set up a play date or bring the friend with you. Like, hey, can we just bring Junior? And yeah, it costs $15 or whatever to get him in that day. But again, that's an intentional investment. That's a cheap toy. That's a cheap outing. That's an inexpensive way to get your child safe entertainment. So if you bring the friend, awesome. Or leave your child and leave them with some money for spending. Like, great, here's $50, get everyone Chick-fil-A. Like, I know that's an investment, and I know that is not an opportunity everyone has, but I am trying to tell you, if we know that the tech is a bad option for our child for a full day, where is the reasonable amount of spending? Maybe it's we buy that little card game instead, and it's $9. And now it's a one-time purchase, and we just use it every time. Maybe each weekend we get another little $9 game that we bring with us, and that becomes kind of the fun as we get to shop at Target or on Amazon for this next thing we do. I'm just trying to expand our vision that the goal isn't complete and utter solitary boredom or complete and utter overstimulation and internet, ubiquity. There is an in-between ground, and there are kids there that will participate, as well as things we can do to get our children engaged. So phones out of bedrooms followed by tournaments of sports. We should use them intentionally. And we're feeling this right now because 2 kids in baseball means it's like Tuesdays, Thursdays, Fridays, Saturdays, and occasionally Sundays, depending on the schedule. So with Hadley, it's a lot of dolls and a lot of catch. A lot of, hey, your siblings, so our boys play on 2 teams, one of them with a friend, but the sibling of the other one plays on a separate team. They have tons of logistics with their 4 kids. And so we sometimes borrow a child and say, great, can we bring this kid with us since nothing's going on over there? And that is, again, totally reasonable to either leave a child with a friend group you trust or to bring one with you. And at baseball, we don't pay anything extra for them to come. That was just for basketball and for wrestling. All right. That's my answer to that. Finally, just a gospel reminder as I'm reading through Hebrews 4, and if I've said this again recently, I apologize, but not enough not to say it. We're reminded in Hebrews 4 that we have a great high priest, and that Jesus is our great high priest. has accomplished everything we need for righteousness. That our striving, our doing right with this technology, our making these intentional choices for our kids, our talking to them about AI isn't fear on an existential level that somehow you might lose Jesus because you found tech. Instead, it's a reminder of, man, you know Jesus. Like, let's make sure this tech produces good fruit. Jesus is our great high priest who died for us, rose again to new life because we were sinners. People pursuing not God for their purpose, which means we will get not God forever in that route. God saved us from that. And instead of making us pay that price ourselves for eternity and infinite debt against an infinite God, he paid his own life, rose again to new life, and now offers us the opportunity to become children of God, sons of God, full inheritors of his kingdom, starting with his own Holy Spirit. So we are made new. We are empowered to do good works, and he calls us to those works. Part of that good work is parenting. Part of that good work is having the hard conversations with our spouse and with God about what tech do we need to give up and what tech do we need to add? What boundaries do we need in humility? Just recognizing we're finite people with finite days to live and we want to live them well. So what limits do we put on our own tech? And then extending that conversation to our kids, to our neighbors, to our church community. Like, what are we using right? And where do we need some limits? So remember, read through Hebrews 4. It's awesome. But the short version is the Sabbath rest that was offered as the seventh day of creation is still available to us. It's a blessing from God, and it is offered, and it's fulfilled in Christ. Every day is a Sabbath if you follow Jesus. Every day is a day of renewed peace and joy and rest from our striving for goodness, from our having to provide the sacrifice, because God already did. And we can live in that freedom. There's still tons of work to be done, but the work extends from the power we're given in Christ because we're sons of God. It's not trying to earn our way into his kingdom. So I hope that this conversation is encouraging to you. It equips you to talk to your kids and use the best tech well. If you have any questions, you can reach out to me, Nathan at gospeltech.net. Otherwise, you can join us next week and you can find us on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube at Love God Use Tech. And you can join us next week as we continue this conversation about how we can love God and use tech. I look forward to talking with you then.